it's like the bad old days. Like if we reverse things, 18 months or so ago, this was the norm, right?
When we first started doing them, yeah, just you and I.
I think at that point in time, I was like in the room that's just beyond that wall there. So I haven't moved too far, but you've drastically changed, mate. Like you've moved house and buddy, you're in the middle of the sky these days, not down near the water or anything like that. It's bloody tough for you.
There's been lots of things happen, buddy. Lots of things include. Look at that, Junior Herman, first cab off the rank. Great to see you in the office. She beat her other half by 5 seconds exactly, which I love it. Benny Hinton's another 4 seconds behind it. Noah from the Gold Coast has joined us as well. So, mate, I reckon we're going to have a ripper crowd here tonight because this is, of course, our fortnightly Q&A, Dan, no longer a weekly Q&A.
Absolutely. And Kent, a couple of the stories got shared about you, mate, and some of the little tactics that you now have to make sure that you don't miss this every fortnight. Your lovely other half certainly put forward the steps that you put in place to make sure that by 6:30 p.m. every second Wednesday, you're going to be here and you're going to be on time and not miss a moment of it. So If anyone else is out there and you've got like your own little tips of the trade or something like that, is how you make sure you don't miss Axon, write them in there. Like, do you set an alarm? Do you just wait for the post to come up and get a reminder from Facebook? Like, what allows you to remember to be here, I suppose, is the big question for me.
Love it. And and certainly Junior was talking to us about putting us up on the big 75-inch screen. I'm like, I don't need to be up on the big screen like that.
I'm sorry you have to see that too, by the way.
Shawnee Thomas is in the house. Kelly Marie's there. Bettina Ryan, TW Sammy, Debbie's here as well. Amazing. No doubt we'll talk about finance at some stage tonight because that's what everyone needs to know about or wants to know about. Nicole Otto, Becky Hinton, Jay Simmons, Benny Hinton. Axon's Unleashed is back. Let's talk about that in a second. Timmy McGregor gives us a little shucker with a hey guys. So mate, it was did you notice, Dan, our little sort of back end chat that we have there on Slack with the rest of the team, like a bit of a Merc chat going, I suppose. Yeah. Everyone was watching and or listening to Axon's Unleashed season 3 that got launched last night. Yeah. And everyone was like the chat box lit up really, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was I think I was off talking to some people, which is a pretty standard for me on a Tuesday night between 6:30 and 8:30. Yep. And I jumped off those calls and all of a sudden I just said like, ba-bum, 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 just lighting up going, this is hilarious. I highly recommend, like, I'm a big podcast listener, so I always listen when I'm driving somewhere A to B, sort of get my download from there. But I truly believe the YouTube channel with all of the videos that go with this must just be way more entertaining because when I'm sitting there and I'm involved in it, you can see the personality, you can see the reactions, you can see the giggle fits that are going on in the background as well. So it's just bloody brilliant from that perspective, I find. Yeah.
Noah, can you just do us a favor, please? Can you just can you put the link into our YouTube channel as well? So those that haven't had the opportunity, look,
that's the Spotify one.
Podcast channel on Spotify, but yeah, do that. So, hey team, if you've had a chance to listen to the episode the last 48 hours or so, I'd love to know what you guys thought. What did you like about it the most? What did you discover about Dan, me, or Dane, or Tammy joining the cadets, Corporal Moore? So yeah, I'd love to hear your comments there. Let me read out a message I got this morning, which I know Kelly won't mind me sharing this. Kelly sent me this at 8:30. She's a nurse, as you know, that works in town here in Brizzy. Yep. Morning, Robbie. I have to say that this morning on the train, I was listening to the new podcast, and oh my God, I was literally laughing out loud in front of everyone because of you guys. So many good memories were brought up due to the stories you all spoke about. Love the podcast. You guys are the best. So I'm like, it was really, really cool to get that feed. Oh, there she is. She's online. Hey, Kel. I agree. Best episode so far. And look, to be fair, the next 2 episodes, Dan, of what
I missed one.
Oh, you missed both of them. Well, you'll have to.
I missed one. So I skipped the next one because I was doing what Dan does best and taking a week off to go fishing. So I missed that one. And
you're back for the third one.
Back for the third one as well. So I chime in from that perspective. So you know what? I might even go and listen to the second one because I've got like a little gap in my knowledge there, a little bit of a Robbie Turner gap in knowledge, which I actually missed knowing you for that section of time as well. So I got the podcast, and then it must have been like your junior NCO to senior NCO time is the next episode, is it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Certainly is, mate. Yeah.
And then you come over to the dizzying dark side, mate. And that's when I certainly got to know you a bit better than that.
That's right. There's 2 more episodes, ladies and gents. And Dane was in both of them because Dane, too, was an ex-servie that finished off his time as an officer. So, yeah, him and I just sort of bounce off each other like we always have and always will. I'm not sure if Dane from the Gold Coast is listening tonight. He's on leave this week looking after his amazing daughter, Pipes. So that's good. But he couldn't resist a couple of months ago, could he?
Absolutely not. Well, a couple of months ago, he'd had a couple of sherbets, mate, and he's like down the pub with his mate, and he's like, no, the boys will talk to me, I swear. They'll jump online. And apparently he was typing the chat in, and his mate was sitting there beside him going like, do these guys even know who you are? Do you even work at Axon? Who are you?
From the Gold Coast.
Don't from the Gold Coast. So special shout out to Pipes, if you're listening at the moment, because Dad's paying attention to us instead of yours. I did tell him this morning to get off the work calls and spend time with your daughter. But a special shout out to you, Pipes. Thank you very much for allowing us to have your dad for a large portion of that time while you are on leave up here with him as well.
Hopefully everyone's still typing in the chat box there because no one's come through about what they found or what they loved about the podcast. So I'd love to know that feedback. So, ultimately we don't do it for us. We do it for you. So we'd love to know sort of what your feedback is there. Mate, we've got a guest joining us at 7 p.m., which is going to be really, really cool. Mickey C just said, thanks very much for pointing us towards Wendy.
Man, I'm just glad you got looked after. So, Mick, obviously, with your transition, buddy, it's one of the themes, actually, RT, that I find is now starting to really resonate through each of these podcasts that we speak about is the transition, like from military. So, Mick, obviously, you going through the transition, you had a few troubles when you're transitioning out into your own home and everything like that as well. But, like, it's a bit of a different world when you get out of the safety net also almost of the military there. And I know the first couple of episodes we're going to talk about is your time in the military, but like the conversation is going to rapidly change to when we're talking about your transition out of the military as well, mate. And sort of some of the people that we've had in to sort of speak on the later podcasts as well, transition becomes a very, very relevant part of our lives because as you regularly say, mate, it's not if you get out of the military, it's when you get out of the military from that perspective. Yep.
Everyone does. Everyone becomes a veteran. That's why I find it so disappointing. And I'm on so many other veterans pages, but I feel like there's a one-uppers or there's a two sheds or there's still an Army, Navy, Air Force. There's still I did fucking more deployments than you. You're not even a veteran because you didn't go overseas. Like it's fucking silly, quite frankly, and childish that veterans that we all become one day are fucking not on the same team. It's ridiculous.
No, it's hopefully it's something that will gradually change over time. I mean, there's as more and more people become open and vocal about their transition, some of the challenges that they've had during that process. Obviously, there's going to be more and more people out in the real world then that are going to be able to help people on their journey that can come out as well. So supporting a mate when they're going through what I would consider for those who've been in the military for like 20 years or something like that, like you give over your ID card, right? And they go, thank you very much for your ID card. And they shut the gate behind you and they say, you're on your own. And you're pretty much like chopping off an arm, leave that behind and just learn to live your life without a massive part of who you are and what your sort of personality was through the entire thing. And yeah, it's a little bit daunting for a lot of people out there that need to then make those big steps by themselves. Yeah.
We've interviewed Renee. She's going to come up on the podcast and talk about her transition. We spoke to Tash on Friday. She's going to talk about, basically being a defence spouse for the last 30 years. Kent is still serving. So that process you speak of is still yet to come for them. So there's going to be, effectively both of them are going to walk away from the military, which has served them and provided them so much opportunity and so much sort of travel and lifelong friends around the country, etc. You'll love Tash's story in a few weeks' time when it gets sort of put out there.
Brilliant. Tash did a wonderful job when she came and visited us. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And certainly we've got a very special guest coming into the office on Friday, and we're going to pre-record two episodes back to back of someone that many of you would have seen and heard about and very active on social media. I won't give away who it is, but you're going to love the banter and love the frankness and so he probably calls a spade more than what I do, if that's possible. So,
are you even going to be leading that podcast, mate, or are you just going to be put in the back seat?
Mate, I'll be fucking rolling a few bloody hand grenades under the toilet and just fucking watching it blow up. So that's what we got to Nicky Otto said it was a great podcast. Great to hear the stories that aren't always smooth sailing. You know what, Nick? They're the hardest ones to talk about. They're the ones that put us in a most vulnerable state. But it's the ones that I love hearing about other people. Yeah. How do they overcome adversity? Shit is not always smooth sailing, as you sort of put forward there. And I guess, the path to success people think is just like that. But actually, it's fucking like this. You're on a fucking roller coaster, and like if you just keep going, the line of best fit eventually seems to be up. If you've got tenacity, if you've got grit, if you've got determination, if you've got what is it that you're actually working towards, that North Star that you're like, I am not fucking bailing on this mission for me, for us to be able to get there. And certainly, Dan, as you contributed so very well to the chronological birth and evolution and being of Axon over that time, and by fuck, it was far from.
I didn't know where you were going with that. The birth and the
no. Well, you weren't there for the birth of Axon.
I didn't do that much.
You weren't there for the birth of Axon, but you're our favourite son that came along very, very quickly, and it's amazing. So Huey Allen said Dane Roche's story of getting his mate to salute a warrant officer cadet, which is absolute gold. Oh, that's great. And then Mickey C is talking about the transition is very hard to find your feet, and it's always changing. It makes it so hard to navigate. Yeah, it is, mate. And that's going to be a big part of we've done the Axon story. You guys know about the key advisors and the rest of the team, and now we're sort of talking about transition. We're talking about veteran spouses. We're talking about veteran entrepreneurship. So that's going to be the real flavour going forward. Now that you've sort of heard my story interchange with Dan and Dane's. That's going to be the real flavour going forward as far as what the best value we can provide you. Because at the end of the day, we've got 9 veterans that work in the business, well, myself and nine others that have had that soft landing, and we've been able to transition somewhat effectively, without thinking that it's all sort of smooth sailing. And we're going to get lots of other people on to tell their story as well.
Well, just on that point, mate, Julia, I see that you're there tonight, buddy. So, question without notice, Julia. I know that you're really passionate about that stuff too, as you sort of describing it perfectly there, Dan. So if you're up for it, mate, just give us a thumbs up. I want you to come along and do a podcast with us too, please, mate.
Yes.
You would be great as a guest to come along and tell the story of yourself and Jai. So can you just give us a thumbs up, mate, and just give us a positive ping back if you're willing to jump online for an hour or two and just, I don't know, we'll jaw off, put it that way. And you know what? This is absolutely without notice. If you know of someone else that would be awesome to be on our podcast because they've gone through an awesome story as well that they want to share to the world, or you just reckon it'd be cool to jaw off with us for a couple of hours, let you tag your mate in here and come along and say, hey, you need to go and do a podcast with the boys from Axon, and we'll see what's what.
I think Julie's just giving you not just a yes or a thumbs up. She's giving you a hell yes.
Absolutely, mate. All right, mate, I'm looking forward to it. Let's tee that up over the next couple of days. Noah will be in contact with you, buddy.
Brilliant. We can just do it via Zoom, buddy. The team have lined all up. Even though we've got the full podcast studio set up, ready to roll at a moment's notice, they've already tested having people dial in remotely via Zoom. And yeah, that will be a great episode to listen to. Actually, whilst we're talking about nominating others to come and join the podcast, I think we're on the verge really about letting everyone know that we're about to launch a brand new and exclusive Facebook group. It wasn't on the list to talk about tonight, but fuck it, we do it because it's happening on Monday. We're not
mate,
everyone now on Monday.
I'm really surprised you've kept it a secret this long, Mr. Turner, because you are terrible at keeping secrets.
There's heaps of shit going on. I still haven't told everyone.
No, but you're absolutely right. For sort of for our broader community, I suppose, and certainly those that are a little bit further down the rabbit warren with us. We are launching a brand new live exclusive group. It will be very, very private for those of you who have sort of joined the Axon family more formally, that it's just going to be another little private space that we can share a lot more detail and deliver a lot more value to our sort of valued family, put it that way.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do that? I don't even know. Like, what's the process going to be? Do you know?
Well, we're compiling a list at the moment, as you know, with the rest of the team. And then the team is going to find everyone on Facebook and basically just go ahead and do a big group invite. And that starts on Monday. Yeah.
So it'll be like Axon, invites from Axon or Noah or someone from the team will come back to you. And if you feel like you've missed out, you'll probably get an email.
That's what
Noah's saying. And there'll be another link for you to be able to follow along and come and put forward your details and be able to join the group from that perspective. So it's going to be bloody brilliant. There you go. Noah said she'll send everyone an email with the group link.
He's like, shut up, guys. I've got this covered. But that's great, Noah. I know you're bouncing off us here. And to be clear, it's only for those of you that have been accepted into our long-term coaching program and have taken up your success package. And one of the little taglines or catch cries or ethoses that we put in there is that we're going to provide you the elite property experience. You should remember seeing that, right? It's on the benefits to you page just before we go ahead and take care of the approvals. So what does that mean? It's now called the Axon Elite membership. So you guys will no longer be known as clients. Everyone up until Success Package will be known as a client. And now you guys will have the tag as being an Axon member. So it's a free membership and you guys will be part of that. So yeah, come along and get yourself to be an Axon member. And like Dan said, there's a whole lot of value, masterclasses, et cetera, coming your way. So yeah, it's going to be really, really cool.
Mr. Williams, welcome here, buddy. Welcome here. For those of you who are being like creepers in the background, because I can see there's a lot of people online and not all of you are chatting at the moment. Make sure you do jump in and type in whatever messages you've got for us and any questions that you do have going on as well, because there's obviously loads of questions out there that people want answered, as we get them every single day in our inboxes as well, that we go and answer them individually. So if you've got some questions you want us to answer on the spot now, let us know from that perspective. We'll answer them live as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we comment on in the business, and certainly knowing as well, Struddy always creeping. We love
you and I need to speak, Struddy. We're due in the next couple of weeks, buddy. We're spending an hour together.
Not about creeping, it's about other stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, we see it all the time, and the wonderful Jane, who's our build support manager, she'll jump on there and be having other point-to-point conversations whilst we see the chat box going. So we love the interaction. You guys are like saying hi to each other, like you're going to get exclusive invites to in-person events, etc. So we want to build that community. We want to have that safe space. Obviously, it revolves around us and why you're here, and what and how we've all met. So it's going to be a really, really great environment, and it's going to be a free speech environment. You guys can interact with each other as much as you want. We'll be able to share lots and lots of stuff about going on with there. And Lukey Hughes is mate, you're in your house. That's good.
Dialed in your house. Got the NBN connected. Everything like that's happening.
Congrats on the arrival of your newborn, brother. So that was talk about under the radar. You kept that very, very quiet. I think you might have mentioned something to Haley with like, as we're organising your building inspections or insurances, she's like, fuck, did you know Luke and his partner were pregnant? I'm like, he didn't even tell me about a partner. I'm like, oh, shit changes. That's okay.
Mate, who knows what happens over the timeline?
Yeah, cool. Hey, here's a question for you. Thanks, Jai. How popular is and what is the pros and cons of steel frame versus timber frame? Love this question. That's very, very much an emerging trend at the moment. Dan, go ahead and talk about this from a bottleneck perspective and how that all
works. I suppose we'll frame that. We'll frame No, so from that perspective, one of the biggest choke points at the moment from a construction process perspective is having the right materials at your disposal, and the frame for a house is rapidly becoming one of the most hotly sought after pieces around as well to be able to get your hands on. So pretty much it's caused a bit of a change at the moment, where previously the majority of builders would be getting their timber frame houses and they'll be like, all right, we'll knock this up and we'll use the timber frame and everything like that. And then they'll move on. But when they've got the bottleneck of not having enough timber available to make the frames, because it's not just an Australia-wide shortage, right? This is a worldwide shortage of timber to be able to construct property. So there's a massive boom going on in Europe. There's a massive boom going on in the US. And at the end of the day, the wood goes where the money is. And if US is willing to pay 3 times as much as an Aussie company would be, then the wood is going to go to the US from that perspective. So there's a bit of a shortage in the wood being available to actually make the frames for the properties. So a lot of builders now have sort of pivoted their view a little bit and go, okay, well, if we can't get wood, we don't want to stop building houses per se. We need to look at alternate materials and enter steel frames from that perspective. They've been around for quite a while as well. On top of that, it's just a bit of it's a supply and demand equation, to be perfectly honest, RT. So at the moment, there's a huge amount of demand and there wasn't enough supply of timber. So therefore, steel is now making up the gap from that perspective. So it's just bolstering the sort of the total amount of framing that needs to be there from that perspective.
Yeah. And some builders use it, some builders don't. Some builders have been using timber and now they're transitioning to steel. So it's a very fluid and changing environment out there that, a builder's got, he's all right, the slab's been poured now. We've just been notified it's going to be a 3-month wait for timber frame. Fuck, what do you do, platoon commander? All right, let's now switch to bloody steel frame. And, it just changes things because, the tradies that do these ones, that's me fucking hammering a nail into the wood or a nail gun, are different than the tradies doing these ones. That's me doing up a fucking bolt on the side of the timber Meccano set are different. So the people that put the frames together are not the same. So there's a massive fucking jigsaw puzzle and second and third order project management stuff that goes into that, which fucking quite frankly blows my simple mind that I'm glad I don't have to worry about that. So, mate, great question. I hope that sort of helps you out there. That wherever possible, try and navigate your way around a bottleneck. Of course, what do we do with an obstacle? We go around, over, under, or through, and that's just one of those things. So wherever possible, try and switch to a builder that's got steel frames in this current environment.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest pro at the moment. Steel frames, you can get more of them, but in the same respect, there is builders out there that haven't been using steel frames for quite a while that can't get steel frames now either, because there's a lot of allegiances in the background of the building industry. It's like, okay, I've worked with you for 20 years. You're not going to lose a 20-year relationship to go and speak to a guy that's only going to use a steel frame for the next 6 months from that perspective. So it's kind of whatever you can get at the moment, Jai. I mean, they wouldn't use timber frames on the majority of houses if it was a shit option, obviously.
Correct.
So there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. It's just the current state of the market is certainly encouraging a lot more people to go towards steel frame. Often those builders who regularly have a steel frame as their standard will probably have stronger linkages with a steel frame supplier than those that normally use wood. So it's a very, very fluid environment, as RT sort of put forward there.
We've got one of our builders that we use, no names, no pack drills. Michelle, you know who I'm talking about, so just ease the keyboard, please. It's one of those things we don't divulge over a public forum, is the very, very valuable relationship we have with our builders. I thought that was you just typing that as well. Doesn't matter. He's got a family linkage to one of the steel suppliers in Australia. So there ain't no supply issues going on with the nephew from the uncle, put it that way. So, it's by the way, they build beautiful homes. So there is, but that doesn't happen everywhere. That particular builder only builds in a certain area, not everywhere. So again, it's horses for courses as far as that goes. Hey, Dan, do you go ahead and ask me that question, please, from Christopher Reese, and before we bring our guest on in another 7 minutes time.
Yeah, right. Christopher Reese. So, hey, gents, was wondering what your thoughts are on the potential new lending restrictions or home loan crackdown. How do you see this affecting the property market and potentially linking the Evergrande situation? For those of you who aren't tracking, sort of there's been some discussion in the media about some additional lending restrictions due to debt to income ratios increasing. So compared to a couple of years ago where it used to be about 16%, it's now up at about 21% of people are leveraged over 5 times over their income. So that's broadly what it's about there. And they're trying to not let that get to be too much of a runaway. Yeah. What do you reckon, RT? What are your thoughts?
Before I get to that, TW Sammy's just put as well, I was reading in the news recently about financial regulators clamping down on people investing in property to minimise risks without having gone too deep into the read. How can that affect the long-term planning for everyday person looking to have investment properties? And I'm glad Deb's online tonight, and certainly Deb, just warm up the fingers if you don't mind. I saw this come into play in 2015. That was the first time I saw APRA, the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, pull a big lever and go, right, we're now going to impose on the banks, and they can provide direction and guidance to the banks, the banking policy per se, monetary and fiscal policy. That's hence the term prudential. They're saying, okay, you can only have a certain amount of percentage as far as interest only on your books. You can only have a certain amount of percentage as far as investors on your books. That's interest only versus principal and interest, investors versus owner occupiers. So I guess this is not the first time that a organisation like APRA has and will and can pull a big lever just to stop the runaway of debt to income ratio, as Dan was speaking about before. Interest rates have come down a lot. Prices have gone up a lot. Because of course, COVID, wage stagnation has now been extended. So people are not earning more money to buy things that cost more, even though the price of borrowing money has come down. Hence the term debt to income ratio. And certainly Deb has to run through a formal bank calculator, which takes into account all this serviceability. I think you've got to come up with like at least a certain figure on there from a percentage perspective, and it's binary. You either pass or you fail. You can run right up to the line, and if it passes, it passes. Noting the banks are not saying, even though we know interest rates for an investment loan are going to be, say, 3.3%, the banks are calculating it at 5.3%. Even though you know you're going to get $450 a week on your rental income, the banks will like shave 30% off that. So they're putting buffer. So the reality of how much you can afford is up here, but the banks are only going to lend you this much here. So you need to be able to get over this hurdle, and then the reality of, because obviously you're going to be able to get the full amount of rental income, and the interest rates are not 5.3%, they're 3.3%. So the banks are already including an element of risk mitigation for you to be able to borrow the money. Now, just because interest rates are so cheap at the moment, there's never been so much scrutiny on people wanting to borrow the money. And I guess what I also saw back in 2015 was the banks put postcode restrictions. Because, for instance, and one of the top tips that we put in Debbie's put high team of members. I think she's like, she's like fucking ready to read this. And no doubt Deb will echo some of the things I'm talking about. She's been a wonderful mentor of ours, Dan, over the last many, many years. So you and I are very skilled when it comes to sort of putting the layman's term stuff on what's going on from a finance perspective. But it's going to be great to hear some stuff from Deb's mouth here. Hi, team of members. She'll be like, sorry, I'm busy. I can't tell you anything. Where was I going with that? Stand by. Yes, so one of our top tips that we put in there as far as finding the right location is value for money. Now, in some of the master plan communities, for those of you that have taken a property off the market or recently built a property here in Southeast Queensland, I haven't finished yet, Shawnee, you can see that you get a banging, awesome, fixed price, full turnkey fucking investment property for, say, between $500,000 and $600,000. That same product down in Western Sydney, fucking 80 k's from the city, halfway to fucking Canberra, or bloody halfway to Geelong down in Melbourne, is $700,000 or $800,000 and rising rapidly because there's so many fucking people that live in those two cities. So I guess remember there's no one Australian property market. So putting a clamp down in people investing in property should and will have postcode restrictions allocated to it, because the housing market, whilst it's going very strong here in Queensland, it's not fucking running out of the depths of everyone's reach there, because you can get a fucking banging property for $600,000, not $800,000 or $900,000, which is what it costs down south. So I guess there's always sort of room to move there as far as that goes. So let's just see how it all pans out. At the end of the day, responsible lending for anyone who wants a third party person like the bank to get involved and borrow and lend you money is a very, very good thing, because we don't want fucking families crying with another banking and financial services sector Royal Commission, in fucking 2 or 3 years' time. We have crossed that bridge already. So, yeah, I mean, that's my take on it anyway, from a layman's terms perspective about what's going to go on down the track. But at the end of the day, we all need to be responsible and not sail too close to the wind and get ourselves into more debt than we can handle. And if that means you need to press pause for 12 months while things settle a bit until the borders open, et cetera, then fucking so be it.
Yeah.
Over.
I mean, it was a few months ago now. I think CJ Wynn might have actually jumped on. It was like, hey, fellas, we've got the RBA at the moment. Do you think we're going to see an increase in rates? And I think we came out at that point and it was kind of like, well, no, because the RBA doesn't want to slow down the rest of the economy. They want to be able to find another tool in their little toolbox. So they've got their hammer out now and they're like, all right, what am I going to fucking hit? And what they've basically done is they've found a little niche where they can really try and attack what they perceive to be unsustainable growth in the property market in some of those sectors that they're trying to sort of moderate and just try to drag it back from that perspective. And, it will probably work because there'll be a bit more market sentiment where people will go, oh shit, and get a little bit scared. And they'll go, fuck, maybe I need to cool my jets here. I might get in trouble from the banks and I might not get my money and so on and so forth. And it'll create an interesting little environment. I think if the underlying sentiment remains there that people want to be in a relatively secure investment vehicle, then they'll continue to come to the property market. That's what they're going to do. And I think I was speaking to Deb about this about 2 to 3 weeks ago regarding a client with the debt to income ratios. It's not something that's new that's out there. It's just going to be something that's going to be readdressed and brought right into the fore, and people will be looking at you with absolute scrutiny. And they'll be like, hey, I understand what you're trying to achieve here, but I can see that your debt to income ratio is over 6 or whatever the number's going to be. And therefore you're not going to get any more money. It's been pretty hard for a while to get money, and now it's just going to become very, very evident why that's going to be the case, and the banks will be drawn over the coals from that perspective.
Agreed. One of the other things that also became very evident, James, I know you're waiting in the background, buddy, but let us just.
But this is gold, so you can
finish this little thread, please, mate. And I know you're an active listener when it comes to understanding what's going in the finance space as well as one of our property specialists. One of the things that's also very evident, ladies and gents, and everyone who's been through part of the Axon process will know exactly what I'm talking about here. Jace Cosgrove, the amazing financial planner and accountant we use, and everyone else does as well, he was given a ping by a mutual friend saying, hey, there's someone down at the Holsworthy Defence family page, excuse my ignorance there, I don't know exactly what it's called, has heard great things about Axon. They want to have a consult with a mortgage broker to see how much they can borrow. So they've had a quick chat to Jace. Jace has given them Debbie's details, and there's a couple of little bullet points in an email, and they're like, hey, Deb, this is what we're thinking about doing. Can you give us a borrowing capacity? There's no strategy. There's no time. And I apologize if this wonderful couple who I'm going to speak to, I think in 1 month's time, exactly on the 29th of October or thereabouts, and have a connection call with them to see if they do want to take the Axon plunge per se. But there was no diagram, no pictorial representation of their cash flow, no strategy, no timeline, no cash flow analysis. And Deb then had to come up with a bit of a clunky borrowing capacity, and she's done an amazing job in providing that. And I've since had a bit of a chat with her because, like I said, I'm going to have an opportunity to perhaps coach these clients. And I said, you know what you've just done there, Deb, is that you've now had to navigate your way around someone's circumstances without the property wealth action plan that we all put together as your coaches. No wonder you're fucking having trouble trying to decipher what's going on here, because we do all the work. And so I guess it was a good little reminder about that's how every other mortgage broker has to do it in Australia who hasn't come through the Axon process. So I guess the key message there is, ladies and gents, even if you are or aren't a client, and I'm doing this literally, and I'm speaking to the amazing Ryan and Amanda straight after this, they want to buy another property or they want to consolidate like what's gone on over the last 18 months. The first thing we do is refresh the plan, put a new diagram, a new timeline, and a new strategy in place, and give that to Deb so she can see and understand what the fuck is going on. And then she'll crunch the numbers, and then we'll go back and see what the next move's going to be. So I guess it just reinforced to me anyway that, here she is. Jesus, Debbie, you need to fucking work on your bloody words per minute typing skills.
He's been doing a Robbie Turner typing, mate, one finger at a time.
My typing is not too bad, by the way. I tell you what, Dan, you go ahead and read that out, buddy, because I've been on a bit of a rant.
Everything you mentioned, RT and DI, is correct. There will be ongoing slight changes. Finance is always a moving sector, which is absolutely correct. What is the policy today will not be the policy tomorrow, right?
Sometimes.
We need to react to the current environment, ensuring no one ever overreaches like they did in the USA. We're currently working with some lenders that have DTI, debt to income ratio, at 6%, especially a new to lender. So if you're a new client, you haven't provided a demonstration of your habits for that lender, I suppose, from that perspective. Most lenders will also take 80% of the rental income, and the assessment rate will be approximately 2.5% above the actual rate. We just have to ensure we continue to highlight clients' affordability as well. So it's not, as much as I love the online calculator from NAB, and you can jump on there and you can plug in your income and stuff like that, it does about 1/10 of what the actual job of a mortgage broker is to do, to be able to go consider you across multiple lenders, so on and so forth. Put yourself in the absolute best light when you go to the eyes of the banks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deb. I apologize. You know we're pulling the piss, mate. I didn't know you were having dinner, and I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner. Far from it. But yeah, thank you so much for doing that. I had a bit of a sense we're going to talk about finance stuff tonight, Dan. So here we are.
Yeah. Can I just close out on Chris Reef's final thing? Is like potential link in the Evergrande situation. I think Evergrande's a red herring, man. Like it's going to get bailed out by his parent nation.
What was that last bit? Say again.
Evergrande. So basically, they're talking about a repeat occurrence as to what happened in the US from a housing property sector with their lenders there. And Evergrande, backed by the Chinese government, it's not going to fail.
Yeah, fuck no. The Australian. Here he goes.
This is what I love. This is what I love reading about and hearing about. And for those of you who don't actually like sit down and read The Economist or get that type of stuff sent to you, like do yourself a favor. That's where the good stuff is, and they dissect all of this stuff. So, like, I just get to turn up on Wednesday night and just repeat what the dude who wrote in the article 4 days ago said because I read the article.
That's why people don't do it. They're like, Dan, you do that.
I'll just turn up and listen to Dan draw off from that perspective. So,
all right, Noah, 2 things, please. Bring James in. James, come and say hi, brother.
So James has been here before.
Hello.
Here's Wilco. So, Wilco, the last time you were on here, you did like a shirt change halfway through the session, didn't you?
Oh, the interview with Caitlin, that's right.
Yeah, so that was when
Caitlin
I
was like over here, and then we got 3 minutes. She goes, right, fucking get out of the way. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a client back then, just, talking about my build as, just still serving. Here I am. And, now we're a bit over 12 months later, aren't we? We actually just passed them 12 months not long ago. So, yeah, it's been
12 months, 25 days, mate.
Yeah, it's been a great journey, let's say.
Good on you, mate. Good on you.
Yeah.
Noah, that was 2 things. James, glad for you to come and join us, buddy. No worries, Chris. My pleasure, mate. Noah, can you please jump in and bring up Nicole Otto's point? She had something about
open borders soon, internal, external, supply flow, building supplies, life back to normal where possible.
Yes.
Do you see prices leveling out or even dropping?
Oh, fuck. Righto.
You got your crystal ball, bro?
I
don't. But I'm actually, and I said this when Home Builder came out without us getting on all the details. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much. I had some other people inquiring about an alternate, and I thought of you straight away, literally last night. So you may have some more people coming your way, buddy. I'll get the team to let you know in due course. Nick, I'm scared. It's almost one of those things. Those that have got a flag in the sand in the Southeast Queensland property market right now should be very happy about what I'm about to say. Those that are still waiting to get in on the market, listen to me very carefully as well. The price growth and the supply and demand imbalance, i.e. there's been more demand and very limited supply, has occurred with borders closed here in Queensland for, let's call it, all year. When those borders eventually reopen, obviously there's going to be some intrastate migration take place. And think about this for a second. Whilst we're on the verge of maybe another little mini lockdown, which is I don't fucking really care about because we have had 0 cases up here, right? Think about the FOMO and the jealousy, not against anyone in particular, but the let's get the fuck out of Dodge City, being the southern states, when you can, and move to Queensland, where the Olympics are going to be, where there's billions of dollars of infrastructure being spent, and, babe, there's no fucking COVID. And we can sell our house, our 2-bedroom fucking apartment in Leichhardt, a little terrace home that we've been living in. Let's sell that and go and pay cash for a big fucking 5-bedroom mansion somewhere up in Queensland, and we still have $500,000 left over. Let's get the fuck out of here and move to Queensland. I think, Nick, my personal opinion, the amount of intrastate migration, therefore people flooding into Queensland once the borders open, is going to be a fucking real shot in the arm to the whole economy, and it's going to be a real shot in the arm as far as house prices go. What I'm not looking forward to is it's going to be even harder to try and find properties. It's going to be cost even more to find those properties because obviously prices, I think, are going to rise. So again, those that have been able to take action, and fortune favors the bold, as the saying goes, you have taken action during some turbulent times around the country. Let's be frank. You guys are going to be the ones that's I think is going to benefit from it so much more. So, you know, and I do think, as my final point there, as far as supplies go, I think that's going to elongate the supply and demand and that bottleneck stuff that Dan was talking about before. I think that's going to be elongated for probably at least another 12 months because demand is going to be so much higher still. And there's going to be there's people buying properties. So this is what the property managers and real estate agents are telling us. There's people buying properties, cash unconditional, sight unseen from Melbourne and Sydney, ready to move up here into a house. Because they're moving up here. Old mate and old love's probably got a job. The kids are now enrolled with school. They just need a fucking roof over their head. And they've made so much money with the housing market down south, and shit is still so cheap up here in Queensland in comparison. So it's yet to go through that full and proper growth cycle. So hold on to your hats, buddy. And you know, Nick, good on you, mate. You've already got a flag sitting in the sand here in Queensland. That's my answer to that question.
One of those things that we were looking at the other day, RT, was 18 months ago when I was presented my property by demo, my house was ready and the land was registered. So as soon as I put down the EOI, let's go. We could move forward. And we laugh about it now. It just does. It's just that. And it's just like, God, if we had something like that now, we would just be jumped on, right? But now, we just saw the latest release of land release coming up. And it's out to September next year until it's registered. That's not even until building approvals and then start of construction. And then on top of that, we've obviously got the delays of all of the actual build construction times, which, are looking out, average around the 9-month mark as we're seeing. So if it's taking that long to get to that process, and that's only happened in such a short time of COVID, and then all the other, like Dan spoke about before, with the supply and demand of materials, not just within Australia, but external, we're even having problems, or the industry's having problems, not just with the supply of timber, but with the containers to be able to hold the timber to move it into the country. It's down to that. So I would not surprise me if we see 2 or 3 years before we start to see things level out to where they should be. Personally, I don't think there's going to be a price drop whatsoever.
Fuck no, there's going to be, I think,
no
opposite from a price drop. Dan,
you're
the economist. What do you think, mate?
My wife is the economist, yeah. Literally. So the current growth that we're seeing in the market is not driven by investors. It's very much being driven by owner-occupiers in the current environment. And Nick, I think that from my perspective, the reason that is different is because people who move into houses don't then go and sell that house for $50,000 less just to move into another house. They hold on to a house because they don't want to make a loss on it because they're emotionally connected to it as well. So they don't think with their checkbooks, they think with their heart down here. So I don't think you'll see any drop from that perspective. I don't think building supply prices will go down. If I was a supplier, I wouldn't reduce my price after someone has just demonstrated that they're willing to buy it for the same amount. For the same product. So I think building supplies will be steady, if not increase a little bit over time. I think we've reached a steady state from price growth at the moment for the foreseeable future, because we're in a situation at the moment where land supply isn't keeping up either. So if the land supply equation starts to take off again and there's the land available to be bought, then the building industry will absolutely be up shit creek without a paddle as well. So, but like a developer at the moment has issues getting the big concrete pipes, for example, that go underneath the roads. So if the developer can't finish developing the area, there's no more land available. Therefore, there's no more builds that can be conducted from that perspective. So from a supply chain perspective, we're right back at the beginning, Nick. Open international borders though, and just fucking hold on. Just genuinely strap in and just fucking ride the wave.
Plus, from a finance point of view as well, Dan, if we're building a house now for $300,000 and that's the price of today's value, in 2 years' time, if it costs $280 to build that, then that means that the bank has just loaned, thousands of people X amount of money based on that price. But if it's dropped, they're not going to allow that because it's money out of potentially their pockets. So, in valuation point of view, so there's so many facets to it. It's that keeps driving it up.
Yeah,
the basics of economics are supply and demand. If there's more demand than what there is supply, prices don't go down, Nick. That's just how it is, buddy. Like no matter. Think about the prices of bananas when Cyclone Yazi fucking wiped out all the banana crops. It was like $14 a kilo. Now you can get them for like $1.69 on the special. People were still fucking eating bananas at $14. Mackie Davis is in the house. Got a question.
Zach Davis, sorry, bro. Go back half an hour, man.
We've just been speaking about it for the last 20
Rewind.
minutes. So thank you so much.
Once we've finished Zach, just sort of slide back about 30 minutes from now, mate. I reckon we started about 15 or 20 minutes RT. We started talking about that. Went for about 20 minutes or so, Zach, just giving you sort of broadly our thoughts from that perspective.
And we gave it fucking full throttle too, like fucking press, go.
Pretty standard.
Go. You'll love it.
Now, Wilco, when we were sitting there this morning and we were talking about you were going to come along tonight, you sort of said to us, it was like, hey, boys, what are we going to talk about tonight? And what did we say, RT?
I don't know.
You both laughed.
So Nicky Otto, keep bringing on the awesome questions. Will, I expect some great questions from you. Cat Knight, throw a curly one in for Wilco as well. You're a beautiful human. And Caitlin, mate, you're going to be welcome back anytime James gets boring, put it that way. So keep floating.
I go get it now? Or?
Not quite yet, mate. But keep floating those questions in. So Nicky Otto, let's cover off on that one. Do you believe the same for Victoria and New South Wales, noting the migration out and into Queensland?
I don't think so, because there's actually a real housing shortage in both those areas at the moment as well. And there's just so many more people that live down in New South Wales and Victoria also. So here we go. The main ports for arrival in Australia for overseas are Sydney and Melbourne. So I was just about to say, and when that international migration does occur, they ain't coming to fucking rock up on the Gold Coast. They come up here to holiday, but they all move down to Sydney and Melbourne. It's been widely known. I'm not being racist here. Widely known by both premiers of both states. Those areas of the states that are multinational are fucking doing their least compliance when it comes to bloody COVID, because that's where all the bloody international migration goes.
Yeah, you got sort of language barriers and cultural barriers and everything like that needs to be overcome to be able to do that. So it's kind of understandable why from that perspective. But Adam Harmey must have been listening to me at some point in time, because as he sort of points out there, when you come to Australia, you come into Sydney, you come into Melbourne, you come into wherever it is that person that's come before you is already living. If your best mate moved over here from Argentina 3 years ago and has settled himself, you just fly in and you sleep on his couch for the next year and a half until you get your feet under you.
That's right. It's the familiar communities that people move to, because it's like you get your foot in the door. That's what they've done, and that's why there's those larger communities. There's in different states. So yeah, absolutely, it makes sense on their point of view. Absolutely.
I've just had an office manager come and join us. He's been sitting over there just supervising proceedings for tonight. So my little boy Hank's come and said hi.
So Noah pointing out then Brazilians are the only ones that move directly to the Gold Coast, because it just sort of reinforces what we were talking about there, Wilco, because there's already a huge cohort of Brazilians sitting on the Gold Coast. So they're like, hey, my Brazilian brother, I'm going to come over and I'm going to stay with you for a little while. You can allow me to sort of integrate into the society in a safe and controlled manner because you're my mate as well.
Yeah, that's right. Until you spread your legs, spread your arms, and do
spread your wings. Spread your wings, Wilco.
Spread your wings. There you go. Unscripted right there, isn't it?
Mate.
Righto, Robbie Turner, let's go to you. We want some PG stuff, please.
I was going to say, I'm the biggest buffoon on this whole show, but you've just bloody
I've just taken it out. I've just taken it out right there. Oh, God, what a day.
Hey, James, tell us about, you've been with us for a year now. Let's give everyone an insight, though. You've been with us a year now. You've now building your own home as well.
Yeah.
You and the amazing Miss Caitlin. What have you noticed? The quick questions without warning, mate. What have you noticed? I logged into screen.
What a time to log in.
Matt, I got your message today, buddy. I haven't had a chance to have a look at that little tool you sent me, though.
Junior Herman, wow. What's some of the key things you've observed now being behind the mirror with your Axon shirt on for the last 12 months? If you reflect on what you thought you knew as an ex-int operator, to be fair, what, you know, to give us your understandings of the dynamics and the mechanics of the property game, and the awesome clients we have, and the disappointment sometimes where people do a U-turn because they get mum and dad involved, or just open forum to you, mate. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, look, as I mentioned, like, you know, having built a property with you guys prior, thought, you know, the transition would be, you know, relatively smooth, and it has been. But it's like every week I feel like I was getting a grip. I'm like, yeah, I've got this. And then the more I'd learn, the more I'd realize there are more doors, second and third on. It was just like a big Orbat just breaking out and out and out. And it was just having to go through certain segments of, I guess, the industry entirely. Not just, you know, it's not just about finding a property for a client and then presenting it and then moving on to build support lane. It was having to know the finance, the actual, you know, how it was best for the clients. The strategy is obviously like such an important part of it, because that's what drives people. It's not the actual property, it's their strategy, it's their plan. And understanding that at a deeper level has been really eye-opening as well. I'm really connecting to clients on that point of view. But I guess from when I started to now, it's been a huge shift in how the game is played today, right? I mean, when I first started and when I was first presented a property, there was, you know, we could find a block and find a property for clients. It was fairly easy with short notice. Yeah. Now we've got a handful of clients that we're looking out to 6 to 12 months in the game to be able to really fight for that. And it's an ever evolving industry, which we are constantly having to keep up to date with. And whilst it's always changing, it's also exciting to be able to always learn and keep up to date with it. I guess, like, from the other perspective, is the frustrating side of it is when we present a house to a client and we say, yeah, it's going to be built, we're going to start construction in, say, 6 months' time, or estimations. And then at the moment, we're feeling that peak where the industry is shifting from, you know, time to start construction, builds blowing out because of, you know, the shortage of supplies, and then having to go back to clients who we've built a plan around and then say this is how it's being adjusted. And, you know, not everybody is, and naturally as well, is so understanding. But it's just, and I get it. I feel for them, because it's like, I'm expecting my house to be started construction and finished in a certain amount of time frame. And there are so many factors outside of our control, the bank's control, the builder's control, that are affecting it. But yeah, it's just seeing and having that translation really with our clients as we go along. So it's been interesting.
Mate, one of the things you go, Dan, please.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there. Like, you spoke relatively passionate about those things that are outside your control. You're kind of in that same state at the moment. You and Caitlin are going through the process of building a property as well. Like, are you guys experiencing that? And sort of what's some of the stuff you've been feeling on your own personal level? Like, because we're in the trenches with you, ladies and gents. Like, we're not at the top of the ivory tower preaching about how this is to be done, right? Wilco, you're out there at the moment, buddy, in the trenches. Like, what have you guys been seeing and feeling for your own personal activity?
Dan, you're building 2 properties. I'm building my own property as well. Adam's building his own property. Haley's building her own property. Fucking who else have we got?
I've only got one, mate. I hit PC today.
Simo's about to start building. D-Dubs is about to start building. So we've got, 7 or 8 of the Axon team that are all building a property right now or this year. So that in the trenches term that you've just used there, Dan, is very, very relevant, mate. I'm glad you I wanted to highlight that it's not just James and Caitlin who are building their home, even though it's going to be an absolute belter. All of us that are wearing an Axon shirt are, in the same boat. Go for it, James.
I guess right from the start, when we sat down, designed a house, colors, tiles, you name it, everything through the house. It's experiencing those time frames for when the builder actually develops the engineering plans and the color schemes and the actual quotes and prices, and then the contracts for a different style of build that we were going for. It took a fair bit of time, and that's not the builder's fault that they were just taking their time with it. It was just the fact that the industry, again, is so busy that so many people are building right now that even the actual employers of each builder are just flooded with work. But I mean, from that point, it's taken several months, and that's fine. It is what it is. And now we're waiting for building approval, and that's taken 2 or so months. Again, there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to wait. It's a slow-moving project, but there's nothing we can do about it. We can kick and scream as much as we want, but it ain't going to make the external agencies work faster because they've got external agencies and so on and so on. But myself, I see all, and I've explained and sat down with so many people over the last several months about these delays, and now I'm feeling it, and I know it, and I'm expecting it. So, just today we decided, what, we're not living in our current house, which is about an hour away from the office, and we're going to move closer into the Gold Coast because I'm not expecting the build to be done between a 9 or 12 month period. That's just my expectation. So we just bit the bullet today and gone, we're moving down closer. So, we're not having to drive an hour because
an hour the other direction.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling it. We're all feeling it. It's more about expectation management though, really, isn't it?
And Caitlin, I know you're listening. How is James going with his expectation management for you, mate? Is he looking after you?
While she's typing that in, James, one of the things I want to bring up quickly, and I've got to go in 4 minutes, lads. I've got a call straight after this. I loved how you have injected yourself into so many conversations about people transitioning, because you've done it much more recently than Dan and I.
Yeah.
But also how to work the DVA system, how to work the transition system, and making sure that you're being timely as far as putting all your DVA claim stuff in. So
yeah,
you've been through the full and comprehensive process now, and come out the other end and got a very, very great outcome, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, you've sustained injuries and you have been duly compensated for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, I really want to commend you in a public forum to say that you have done a great job in giving people a whole range of information that myself and Dan could not have given, for instance. So I know that brings you great pride and satisfaction as well.
Absolutely. And I, as much as it's a horrible topic to talk about when we meet a client that's starting or is in that process, I get excited or get happy the fact that I know I can inject myself into that person's life and be able to assist them, not just with the DVA, but the actual transition component and putting it together. And then there's potential other things as well from then on and then on. So it's not just about, what it used to be many years ago, which was get out, then lodge your claims, and then get yourself sorted later on. Everything should be done concurrently, and you should accept nothing but set the top, because you've given your time and you've given you potentially put your own life on the line for this country. It's like you may as well make sure that they look after you before you step out the door and close it behind you, like you mentioned before, Dan. When you give back your ID and you walk out that door, that's pretty much it, and that's that is the way it is. So if I can help one more person's life in transitioning, I'm more than happy, and I've done it many times this year, which it's been absolutely an amazing experience to be part of.
Good on you, mate. It's something you should be really, really proud of. So yeah, that is great. All right, with about 1 minute to go exactly as it comes over 19:29. So lads, what another cracking session, and thank you so much for everyone who put their points forward about supply and demand and building the building industry, what's happening in the finance industry. I guess the key message there is that those have decided that have taken action over the last 18 months are the ones that are going to benefit the most. And I guess it just goes back to the old age saying, the best time to buy a property was yesterday. The second best time is today or tomorrow. So, if you're watching now and I've seen lots and lots and lots of clients and lots of active users tonight, but I'm sure there's many other people that are either listening to this live that haven't said a peep listening to the replay that are still wondering about when they're going to get started. Fucking get cracking, ladies and gentlemen, because the property market is not waiting for you. That's one thing I can assure you. And you are going to pay 50, 60 grand more purely based on the land price than what someone's going to pay tomorrow if you wait 6 months. That's the one thing I can absolutely guarantee you, because it's just happened over the last 6 months. Thanks so much, everyone. Ladies and gents, I really appreciate you guys being here. See you guys in another fortnight. Thanks, Jane, for joining us. Great job.
No worries.
Thanks,
guys. Good
See you
night.
in about 10 seconds on your next call. We'll go.
Come away.
See you, Bye.